The chief's daughter. The pride of Uke Village. In the heart of the Red Lands sat Uke Village, a place of peace and plenty. The leader of this village was Chief Okeke. He was a man who measured his life by the size of his barns and the number of his titles. But his greatest obsession was his only daughter, Adaeze. Adaeze was more beautiful than the morning sun rising over the hills of Uke. Her skin was like dark cocoa, and her eyes were as bright as the stars. But because she was the chief's daughter, she grew up with a heart made of stone. She believed that no man in the world was good enough to touch the hem of her wrapper. "Father," she would say, sitting on a carved ivory stool, "why should I marry these village men? Their hands smell of soil and their clothes smell of sweat. I want a man who is perfect. A man who shines like the moon." Chief Okeke, wanting only the best for his daughter, agreed. He sent a message to all the lands: any man who wishes to marry the daughter of the chief of Uke must be a man of perfection. He must have no blemish, no scar, and wealth that never ends. The beautiful stranger. One afternoon, during the peak of the dry season, a stranger walked into Uke Village. The village square went silent. Even the goats stopped chewing their grass to look at him. The man's name was Adaeze. He was a masterpiece. His skin was so smooth it looked like polished bronze. His teeth were as white as coconut meat, and his walk was like that of a graceful leopard. He wore robes of gold and silk that shimmered with every step. He walked straight to the palace. "I have come for Adaeze," he said. His voice sounded like the soft chime of a silver bell. When Adaeze saw him, she did not hide her face in shyness. She stood up and smiled. "Finally," she whispered. "A man who matches my beauty." The elders of Uke Village felt uneasy. Dibia Namdi, the old medicine man, pulled the chief aside. "Chief Okeke, look closely. This man does not have a shadow. A man without a shadow is not a man of this earth." But the chief was blinded by the stranger's gold. "You are just jealous, old man. My daughter has found her prince." The wedding night. The wedding was the biggest event Uke Village had ever seen. Drums beat from sunrise until the moon sat high in the sky. Adaeze danced with pride, looking down at the village girls who had married simple farmers. She felt like a queen. That night, Adaeze took Adaeze to a special hut built for them at the edge of the village. As soon as the door closed and the village sounds faded, the air inside the hut turned cold. The oil lamp began to flicker with a strange green flame. Adaeze sat in the corner, his back to his new bride. "Adaeze," he said, but his voice was no longer musical. It sounded like gravel being crushed. "You wanted a man of perfection. You wanted a man who was not like the men of Uke. Adaeze, why do you sound so strange?" Adaeze asked, her heart beginning to pound against her ribs. He turned around, and Adaeze let out a scream that was swallowed by the thick walls. Adaeze was pulling his face off. The beautiful skin was just a mask. Underneath, there was no flesh, only grey smoke and yellow bones. He had borrowed his eyes from a cat and his hair from a dead man. The journey to the forest. "I am the spirit of the dead Iroko," the creature hissed. "I heard your pride from across the river of souls. You rejected the heart of men, so now you must live with the soul of a ghost." The creature grabbed Adaeze's hand. His grip was like a cold iron shackle. He dragged her out of the back of the hut and into the dark woods surrounding Uke Village. As they walked deeper into the forest, the perfect clothes he wore began to fall off and turn into dry leaves. His gold jewelry turned into rusted chains. Adaeze cried for her father, she cried for her mother, but she was miles away from the safety of her home. They reached a part of the forest where the trees had no leaves and the ground was covered in white ash. "This is your new palace, chief's daughter," the spirit laughed. He tied her to a tree with vines that had thorns as long as a man's finger. The true hero of Uke. Back in Uke Village, the chief was in agony. He offered all his yams and all his gold to anyone who could find his daughter. The perfect suitors he had favored all ran away in fear. They loved their lives more than they loved Adaeze. Only one man stepped forward. His name was Obi. Obi was a simple palm wine tapper. He had scars on his chest from falling off trees, and his hands were rough from hard work. Adaeze had once spat on the ground when Obi tried to greet her. "I will go," Obi said quietly. "Not for your gold, chief, but because no child of Uke should be left in the belly of the forest." Obi took a small gourd of blessed water and his sharp tapping knife. He followed the trail of broken beads from Adaeze's wedding necklace. He walked until the air smelled of rot and the wind screamed like a wounded animal. The rescue. Obi found Adaeze at the edge of the spirit world. The small creature was circling her, getting ready to take her soul forever. Obi didn't hesitate. He didn't have a magic sword or a golden shield. He shouted a warrior's cry and threw the blessed water at the spirit. The water hit the small creature like burning oil. The spirit roared in pain, its bones rattling as it tried to reform its shape. "Run, Adaeze!" Obi shouted, cutting the thorny vines with his knife. They ran through the forest, but the spirit was fast. It turned into a giant snake, then a wall of fire, then the voice of the chief calling them to stop. "Don't look back," Obi warned her, his rough hand gripping hers tightly. "If you look back, you are lost." Adaeze, for the first time in her life, was humble. She trusted the man with the scarred chest and the rough hands. She kept her eyes on the path until they saw the lights of Uke Village. The change. When they crossed the village boundary, the sun began to rise. The spirit vanished with the darkness, unable to touch the soil of the living. Adaeze fell to the ground at her father's feet. Her fine wedding dress was in rags. Her skin was scratched and bruised. She looked up at Obi, who was panting for breath, his body covered in sweat and dirt. Chief Okeke ran to her. "My daughter. You are back. I will find the best doctors, I will buy you new gold, I will." "No, father," Adaeze interrupted. She stood up and walked to Obi. She took his rough, scarred hand and kissed it in front of the whole village. "I looked for a man of gold and found a demon," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I looked at a man of soil and found a king. From this day on, Uke Village will not be a place of pride. It will be a place where we value the heart more than the face." Adaeze never wore gold again. She married Obi the palm wine tapper, and it was said that their home was the happiest in all of Uke. The villagers learned that true beauty is like a deep well. You cannot see its value just by looking at the surface, you must see how it sustains life when the land is dry.